Hi, my name is Trolls, and in this video I'll be demonstrating our VAP Emperium choir's user interface. The user interface for Emperium is identical for the two different choirs we have in Emperium. As you probably know, we have both the 200-piece Titan choir and we have our 16-piece chamber choir, also known as the Destiny choir. And the reason is really that with the Titan choir, which is actually 200 people recorded on stage, it's not like we double or triple track. We actually record the full section. We did the same thing with 8W as well. But the theory is really that you have this giant choir and it just sits beautiful in the room. We have a room with a tail of about 3.5 seconds. So it's enormous sound in there and with a huge amount of people. And then we have the smaller choir, which has more presence, a more intimate sound. And the Destiny choir was made from hand-picked opera singers. So you really get a more operatic quality out of it. And when you blend the two, you get like the perfect choir sound. You can sort of dial in how much presence you want, how much room you want in it. So it's just a perfect marriage, and all the articulations in both libraries are identical. So everything was recorded the exact same way. The only difference was that the Titan choir was recorded in a big orchestral hall and the Destiny choir was recorded on a smaller scoring stage. I wanted a more intimate sound. I didn't want the big hall for the smaller choir. So you really have the beautiful blend of both worlds and you can get the perfect sound. But in this video, I'll essentially just be covering how the user interface works. We have other videos covering all our beautiful new articulations, but I'll covering that in other videos. The most important part is really to understand what's under the hood. We have a variety of unique features that are tailor-made towards this library. And if you don't know really where they are in the user interface, you'll be skipping some pure gold. So I just want to focus on the user interface in this video, and then we will cover all the musical stuff in the rest of the videos. So if you look here, this is our articulation window, and at a glance, it can look a little bit like our 8W 240-piece orchestra, but we've made a variety of tailor-made modifications that really makes it somewhat different. And one of them is up here. If you look at this little triangle up here, we have a load all and a purge all. So essentially a load all or unload all articulations. Obviously here you can click individually if you want just some articulations, but you can also remove them all like that. And you can also load them all if you want to do that as well. So that's a neat feature if you want to save some memory or if you want to go all the way. Over here is another important little triangle, and this is one is easy to miss. It allows you to essentially control all the articulations here, either based on velocity, which I would not recommend in a normal setting. That would mean that all these guys here would be stacked in velocity and you could sort of trigger them that way. My preferred way of using the choir is actually using key switches. If you click this guy, it's going to add all these articulations to your key switches in the bottom of the keyboard, so you can control everything from the key switches. You can also assign it to any CC controller you want. And obviously, we have deeper controls for each articulation here if you click the settings knob here as well. But yeah, I prefer to use the key switches, but for the demos and the other videos, I'll be using our articulation sequencer, our word phrase sequencer, as you call it. And you can find that guy down here. And this one is interesting because you can essentially, let's say you want to write like A, D, X. The choir will sing that in a pattern. You can also add a blank here if you have sort of rhythmic. Let's say it goes like A, D, X, A, D, X. So if you're playing your keyboard in a rhythmic fashion, you can add blanks as well. You can go back and forth here if you want to change anything, let's pre or something like that. You can do it. And if you just want to start typing stuff, that is available as well. And down here, if you really want to go crazy, we actually have 4 different windows for articulations. So you can make a really elaborate sequence of words using this one. Another tool having fun with is our randomizer here. It will essentially randomize all the phrases down here, all the words, and you can go totally crazy on it and get some really interesting results. I like to do that, and then I'll go in and sort of change a few things. It's not always that particular words. You don't want to go like moose, like cis, like right away. That would be unnatural. Like if you go moose, cis, tus, that doesn't sound natural. So you might want to go in and custom modify some of them. If you want to remove them all, you can do that here. And if you have a really elaborate sequence and you're playing it and you need to restart it, you can do that by clicking here as well. And obviously you got settings here to control these guys up here, and you got settings to control these guys down here as well if you want to go deeper into it. So there's a variety of CC controls you can assign to everything if you want to go really elaborate on it. But I would really recommend using this guy up here, the key switching, or just use the basic word sequencing here, which is just the perfect way to get started and all that. Down here, we got our effects system. We have our Chaos 3.0 system that we've started using a variety of other libraries. So you get the best of that as well. And let me go back here. And over here, we got our options page. And this one also has some new features. Obviously, the Titan choir and the Destiny choir comes both in individual patches and in group patches. And when I say that, I refer to male and female, either separated in individual patches or in collective patches. I actually prefer to use them combined, where we've overlaid both the males and the females. You just get the full range on the keyboard. It's easier for fast writing. And you can control the volume here. If you feel that the males are a little too dominant, you can dial them down. And one of the unique things about the Emperium Titan choir, I should mention that as well, is that when we recorded it, we used a pyramid-like structure. It's a common method used for larger choirs, meaning that you have a bottom-heavy section, so you have more basses, you have a lot of tenors, you have some altos, and then you have fewer sopranos. And the reason is that the taller you go in range of the choir, the louder it gets. And in order to get a really big male section to sing, particularly really deep, you need a lot of bodies. If you ever try to sing deep and loud, you're going to realize that's near impossible. So we had 70 males just on the bass section, and it really allows us to give that beautiful big male choir that I've never heard being covered in sample libraries before. So if you feel that section is too beefy, it's too Russian for you, you can dial it down here. But if you really want it up and powerful, you can dial it up again. And again, you can just use this for an overall kind of coverage of the sort of tonality and the volume between the two different group of choirs. The non-tonals here are interesting. They're actually marked by green key switches here. These are non-tonal consonants, so you can go. So let's say that you are back here on the escalation page and they're singing and you want to write fe or k and all that. You can use all the non-tonal vowels down here for that. And they're always present in most of the articulations, so you can actually use them to create even deeper words. So if this chain of words here is not enough, you can certainly sculpt it and make it your own by adding these guys. We have different variations of S and all that. And I should also mention we have a deeper section of non-tonal vowels that we're recording them at 3 different speeds. So you can get a S and a S and a S. So depending on kind of how you want to structure your words, if you really want to go elaborate into the shaping of words, you can use the non-tonal patch as well. But I'll cover that in a different video as well, just a little tip. Obviously here we got the release trigger and we got the expression here controlled on CC1, I believe. You can also control the velocity curve here, and depending on whether you want to use an exponential or an S curve, or you want to use a more compressed type of curve, you can do that. So depending on how your keyboard is set up, what kind of feeling and touch you want in your controller, you can certainly adjust it here as well. And over here we got our mixer page, and this one is interesting. We've added a couple new features since 8W. First of all, you can load and unload your settings here, and the settings are important because you can go in and let's say you do all your microphone adjustments and you pan them a little bit on the spot mics, whatever. You can also go up here, adjust the stereo fields here. So it allows you to essentially broaden or narrowing the choir. Not that we don't have enough microphone positions to do that automatically, but if you want to push it even further, you can do that. We also have EQ presence, and this one is really important. I think a lot of people forget sometimes that choirs are very susceptible to EQ, and even though we have the biggest choir ever sampled, you can actually get it even more powerful by adjusting both the microphone positions and the EQ to perfection. And EQ presence is really a combination of settings, of my favorite settings for how a choir sits well in an epic mix. So the highs are a little higher, the lows are not as rumbly, so you get a very clean, beautiful choir that just sits well in the mix. And I personally recommend having it between 50 to 75% on the EQ presence. You can dial it in, you will hear a notable difference in the sound, but it really just gives a cut through in the sound that you'd otherwise miss. And once you have it all dialed in, your panning and your fancy EQ presence, all that, you go up here and you save it, and it will be there forever, and you can load it anytime you have a library if you want those particular settings that you like. It may not be my EQ presence, but something else. Then you can load it at any time and do that as well. And at a glance, that is the Emperium user interface for you. Obviously, there is a variety of other details that we'll go into in the other videos, but I think this covers the basic part of it. You can also unload and load your sequences here, of course. We also have our multivowels, and this is one of the new articulation types that we have, and I'll be covering that in a different video. The multivowels are really interesting, and it's kind of funny we have the multivowels and the staccato side by side here. There are certain things you can do with existing choir technologies, whether it's staccato and marcato, or whether it's true legato or polysustains, as we call them in Requiem Pro. But the multivowels is a new type of phrase system that is recorded at different speeds, and it really allows the choir to sing in a very, very fluent way, and particularly combined with staccato and our new true legatos, you can make the choir sing in completely new and fluent ways, and you can also make them sing fast, which has been historically difficult to do. The staccato will always sound a little disconnected and speech synthesis-y or Siri-like. But with the multivowels, you can really create fluent phrases, but we're covering that in other videos as well. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little presentation of the Emperium user interface.